What if I told you that for nearly 2,000 years, humanity lived inside one man's mind? If Aristotle said something was true, medicine accepted it, science taught it, religion adapted it, and politics enforced it. Not because he was always right, but because he built the system through which reality itself was understood. Aristotle didn't just ask questions. He asked every possible question. What is life? What is truth? Why does anything change? What makes a good human being? What is the best way to rule others? In this video, you will discover how Aristotle attempted the first complete map of reality, why his ideas survived empires, religions, and revolutions, how his authority froze progress for centuries, and why modern science was born only after humanity dared to challenge him. This is not just the story of a philosopher. This is the story of how humanity learned to think and what it cost. Aristotle was born in 384 BC in the town of Stagira. His father, Nicomachus, was a physician at the Macedonian royal court. This detail matters more than it seems. From childhood, Aristotle was exposed to anatomy instead of myth, observation instead of prophecy, cause instead of superstition. Long before philosophy, he learned something radical. The body obeys rules. This early exposure planted a seed that would later separate him from his teacher, Plato. At 17, Aristotle entered Plato's academy in Athens. For 20 years, he studied under the greatest philosopher of the age. Plato believed reality existed in perfect, invisible forms, and that the physical world was only a shadow. Aristotle disagreed. He believed truth was not above the world. It was inside it. Plato sought certainty through ideas. Aristotle sought understanding through evidence. The tension between them would split Western thought in two directions, and we still live with that split today. After Plato's death, Aristotle left Athens, and instead of founding a rival school immediately, he did something unusual. He traveled, he watched, he recorded. He dissected animals, compared organs, observed reproduction, studied plants, weather, and motion. Aristotle wasn't thinking about nature. He was watching it work. This was not philosophy as contemplation. This was philosophy as investigation. Aristotle classified over 500 species of animals. He grouped them by shared characteristics: blooded versus bloodless, reproductive methods, and habitat. Many details were wrong, but the method was unprecedented. For the first time, life itself was treated as a system, not a miracle, not a myth, a structure. Aristotle didn't discover scientific facts. He invented scientific organization. Aristotle believed nothing could be understood without asking why. So he introduced the four causes: material, what it's made of; formal, its structure; efficient, what brought it about; final, its purpose. To Aristotle, purpose was not optional. Nature aimed at outcomes. This idea, teleology, would dominate science, theology, and philosophy for centuries, and it would later become one of his greatest weaknesses. In 343 BC, Aristotle became tutor to Alexander of Macedon, the future Alexander the Great. Aristotle taught him ethics, politics, Homer, and natural science. Alexander learned that power required justification. Later, as he conquered vast territories, Alexander sent Aristotle exotic animals, plants, and observations from distant lands. One expanded the world by force. The other is by understanding. If you're still watching, you're exactly the kind of viewer this channel is made for. If you want to support long-form, deeply researched documentaries like this, consider becoming a member of 5 Minutes of Culture. Your support keeps these stories accurate, cinematic, and alive. Now let's turn to the question Aristotle cared about more than nature itself. How should humans live? In the Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle rejected moral absolutes. Ethics, for him, was not about laws. It was about character. Virtue was not something you had. It was something you trained. Courage, justice, and moderation, all were habits formed through repetition. Happiness, eudaimonia, was not pleasure. It was human flourishing, living according to reason over a complete life. Modern psychology still echoes this idea. Every virtue existed between two extremes: courage between fear and recklessness, generosity between greed and excess, pride between shame and arrogance. There was no universal formula. Moral excellence depended on context. This flexibility made Aristotle practical and timeless. Aristotle didn't imagine perfect states. He studied real ones. Over 150 constitutions. He classified governments and their corrupt versions. His conclusion was pragmatic. Stability matters more than ideals. The healthiest state had rule of law, a strong middle class, and educated citizens. Modern political science begins here. After he died in 322 BC, Aristotle's authority grew. In medieval Europe, his works became doctrine. To question Aristotle was to question truth itself. Ironically, the man who valued observation became a barrier to it. The scientific revolution changed everything. Galileo tested motion. Newton rewrote physics. Darwin removed purpose from biology. Aristotle fell. But not entirely, because while his conclusions collapsed, his method survived. Every time you demand evidence, classify information, search for causes, and balance emotion with reason, you are thinking like Aristotle. He didn't give humanity final answers. He gave it a framework, and frameworks shape civilizations. Aristotle tried to understand everything. And in doing so, he taught humanity how to think, even when thinking meant proving him wrong. If this video changed how you see science, ethics, or power, subscribe to 5 Minutes of Culture. Because next time, we'll uncover another idea that quietly shaped the world you live in.